to have him, and pleased to introduce him to you tonight. Why don't you take a minute and introduce yourself to the council?
My name is Wyatt Duffy. I've lived in Southern Utah for about 5 years now. Graduated from Hurricane High. I'm very pleased with having this opportunity, finishing up post in the next 2 weeks. So pretty excited about that. And I'm just really excited about this opportunity. Glad to be here. This is exactly where I want to be. And glad to be working with Jimmy Roden and just Chief Darren, and they're all great guys. So really appreciate all these guys. So
thank you.
Did you bring anybody with you?
Yes, my old man and my stepmother.
Do they have names?
Jimmy Duffy. He actually works in the street department or the fleet department. And my stepmother, she works down at SkyWest. So,
great.
Welcome.
Janine, that's her name.
Thank you. Welcome.
If you guys want to come up here to take pictures, you're welcome to come up here where you can get a good view.
Wherever you want to get.
Soon we're going to have a nice logo on that wall.
You can come right up behind.
Just come right up here and wherever you get a view.
Obey and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Utah. Constitution of the State of Utah. I will discharge the duties of my office with fidelity.
Or we're getting all this.
Welcome, Wyatt.
Thanks, sir.
Congratulations.
Jimmy, you don't look old, by the way.
Which one?
The old man comment is. Paul's mic. We had that happen again.
So as is standard practice, we usually have a family member pin on his badge. So Jimmy's going to do that.
Don't bring blood. Hey,
thank you.
Thank you
very much.
Thank you. I loved when he said this is the place he wants to be.
Yeah. Okay, now we'd like to give a few minutes to Paul Bentman, something our city manager.
I don't want to touch that again.
Oh, yeah, be careful.
So Hunter's not here tonight. I'm sorry, Mr. Hunter's not here tonight. Neither is Mr. Marshall. So I'm going to present something on behalf of the Solid Waste Department so we can get it on the agenda next week for a vote. It came in late. So on the table in front of you, there's a printout there with some pink highlighting on it. A month or so ago, we did a budget adjustment to get a new garbage truck purchased. Part of the purchase of the new garbage truck was Mr. Hunter teamed up with the appropriate folks in Enoch and with Iron County to try to get a better deal because all three entities were going out and trying a new garbage truck. The models we've had in the past, there's been problems with service and parts. So we're trying to get away from those and trying to go with something different where we won't have service and parts issues. So you have the bids in front of you. The one that Mr. Hunter and the other folks have checked out. Well, they checked them all out, but the one that they really want to recommend that we purchase is the Signature Equipment 2019 Peterbilt with a I can't even say that. Labrie body for $260,029. The budget adjustment was for $260. Mr. Hunter will make up the $30 out of his operational funds. So with that, if you do have questions that somebody smarter than I can answer, Mr. Hunter will be back next week, and he can come in and answer questions. We'll just put it on the agenda for next week.
When you look at those amounts, it seems very reasonable in terms of
Pretty close.
being in the ballpark, and as long as it's a model that we feel like we can service, and I trust his judgment in that context.
He was fairly exuberant about
Okay.
going with this truck.
Okay.
Is this
He likes big trucks.
is this a better truck than National Environmental Waste Systems truck? I mean, is it just a better truck?
I think it's a combination of the chassis and the body on top,
Okay.
and the ability to get parts and service. That's what he's been telling me.
And maybe I should wait to ask him this question, but because of working with Enoch and working with Parowan, you said?
No, Iron County.
Iron County. Is there 3 different trucks or?
Yeah, each entity is going to purchase a truck.
Gotcha.
They take about 4 to 6 months to produce. That's why that's why he's kind of in a hurry to
Right.
get the order in. The other 2 entities ordered theirs earlier this week. We just have to finish our process out before we order.
And did they order this particular?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Before we go to Danny, Steve, did you want to elaborate on this? This looks really interesting. I'll pick on you.
Yeah.
I'd be happy to. I got an email today from
State your name.
Steve Decker.
Thank you.
It's late enough in the day I may not remember my name.
Oh, I know. We just thought.
Got an email today suggesting that I might want to be here and just mention a few things that we're doing at the library in the way of arts. And as you can see, the pieces behind you, they'll be here throughout this month. And then in May, June, and July, we'll have an exhibit by Arlene Braithwaite that'll hang here and in the hall out there. We've been putting those in now for a while. This is the 3rd one, I think, that we've hung. Nope, it's the 4th that we've hung here. And tomorrow we will meet about some artwork, some possibilities of some artwork also at the airport, and putting in some tributes and some art there around the baggage claim. This particular program starts this evening. It is called Character Sketches. And what we've done is we've tried to mesh our challenge to promote the arts as well as at least the visual arts and the library. We've gone through literary works and drawn a character from each, well, not from each literary work, but from several literary works. Our only goal was that we couldn't draw 2 from the same work. So if we took Aragorn from Lord of the Rings, we obviously couldn't have Frodo. And we did take Aragorn. We are looking for models. If you are looking to model, we'd be happy to do that. We're also going to use some projected images, which is what we're going to use tonight.
You have an Ebenezer Scrooge. We might get Mr. Bittman in there. For
okay.
It's budget season.
We're looking for Scrooge. We're looking for, if anybody wants to do Tarzan, we're looking for a Tarzan and some others. Sherlock Holmes. We're going to have some fun with this. We don't know how many we'll have. I can tell you in an hour or so, because tonight's the first night we're going to do it. And we hope that it grows. You can come if you want. You can come certain nights if you want. You don't have to come each time. We have separated the characters. Half are male, half are female. We made sure that we got a distributions there, so we're not all drawing, the same look or the same type of character. You can see what they are in the program. We'll have most of them at the library. May move some to offsite. In the summer we may go out in the park and have somebody in the park dressed up as a character and working with those. We're just having some fun with it. We hope that people will come and participate. I will actually leave these flyers up here if there's anybody here who likes to draw. We don't care if you bring a pencil or pen and ink, colored pencils, charcoal. We're primarily dealing with sketching in this particular program, and there is no mentor or tutor there. It's simply an evening to come and work on your craft. Sometimes there'll be somebody there that you can, lean over to. Mona Woolsey, I think, will be there most nights, and you can lean over to Mona and say, how do I fix this? And she's really good at helping. Any questions?
Oh,
Sounds fun.
Thank you.
I
Yeah.
think so too.
Will these people be costumed or?
These people will be costumed.
Okay.
We've checked with a community theater that may help us with some costumes, and Christine Freja today gave me some contacts at SUU or at Shakespeare that might be able to help us with some of
Are
them.
you also able just to come and watch if you don't wish to draw? Because
Sure.
my stick people wouldn't probably fit too well.
Yeah, your stick people will fit better than my stick people, I think. Yeah, sure. Come and take a look. We're out of space in the library. We don't have a meeting room to be able to do this in, so we have actually cleared a space in our processing room back amongst all the heaps of books that are coming in and being processed. And so we'll do that back there until we can find a better place to do this. People have seemed to be excited about it. I hope they are.
Yeah. Well, thank you for coming.
Thank you. Yeah.
Have you asked the mayor to put it in her newsletter by any chance?
I
think
have
that'd be a
not.
great way to get it out to the community and let them know what's going on.
We just finalized the brochure today. I don't know what we'll get tonight because it hasn't been advertised real well yet, but we'll make sure that she gets a copy of it to put in that, and we're advertising through social media. We also have just one more thing. We also have an arts web page that the library, with the help of economic development, well, they developed it. Sponsored, and we are trying to put together a master calendar for all arts events in the community, whether it's at SUMA or Shakespeare or Neil Simon, whether it's drawing classes like this or one that's held Tuesday nights on SUU campus for the community. But anything that is open to the community, we're trying to get on that calendar. So if you know of people or organizations who would like to be on that calendar, please just have them send me an email with their events. And we're going to start putting that together actually tomorrow morning. So we'll have a large master calendar of all arts events, performing, visual, whatever, in the city.
Very good.
Okay.
Wow.
All right. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thanks for coming over.
Okay, Danny. I got to ask, and maybe Lieutenant can tell me, but have you been hanging out in the police department the last little while, or I just.
No, I haven't. I just, something to cover up the ugly, right?
I saw you today and about didn't recognize you. No, it's great. I just think with all our police officers doing their fundraising, that was great.
Danny Stewart, Economic Development Director. Good evening. I'm excited to actually hear some of this report because I haven't heard all of it myself, but just a little bit of background. About 6 months ago or so, the Utah Governor's Office of Economic Development sent out an application statewide for a program being sponsored by the National Association of Counties. And this was for a national placemaking challenge for communities and counties to be able to take advantage of their arts in their community for economic development specifically. We put together an application and a team several months ago. We entered that, and we were, Iron County was among 7 counties in the country that was selected to attend a training put on by the National Association of Counties to look at our community, to look at our county and our arts and how we can better utilize what we have here to help build our economy locally. And that's something, as each of you know, that's always been a strong part of our economy here. So our team consisted of Brad Abrams from my office, Councilman Phillips, Commissioner Blake, and a few other community members. We had Jessica Farling who's the curator at Southern Utah Museum of Art. We had a member of the Cedar City Arts Council, Nick Freud, and then a representative from our tech community, Steve Swan. And they attended this training last week in Iowa, and I asked Councilman Phillips if he would take a few minutes to tell us about that. And we look forward to moving forward with this program. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Danny. First of all, it was a great honor to represent Iron County and the city at this conference. As Danny stated, there were applications from all over the United States, and this is being supported by the National Endowment for the Arts through its Our Town program, and then also through the American for the Arts. And they picked Des Moines because they felt it was a typical American city who had enough resources to sort of host this conference and bring people in from all over the United States with airplanes and conference center, et cetera. There was probably 120 people maybe that were there representing the various areas. The counties were very, very divergent. They came from Alaska, New Mexico, Utah, Louisiana, New Hampshire, Ohio, and Iowa. They had the shortest drive. But it was very interesting. We received 3.5 days of rather sort of intensive training. Our group has proposed, and it's something that we now are going to take to the next steps of how do we integrate our arts better in our community and within the county. We're trying to find a way to invest and get the rural parts of the county more involved in that process. And one of the proposals that we have presented that was at least part of our application, and for the next 2 years, we're going to be monitoring and mentoring with them on monthly phone calls. And then hopefully some funding will follow that. But we're trying to look at creating a corridor between 300 West and Main Street along University Boulevard, which could be a mixed-use kind of place with some retail shops, some housing, some more cultural entities, and small mom-and-pop kinds of shops, performance spaces, landscaping, those kinds of things. And it met with a great deal of support from the people in attendance. And some are looking at trails, some are looking at creating a countywide arts council. There was just a number of different variety of programs that were presented. But I think we presented very well. We had a very nice slide presentation. Steve Swan, the new mayor of Cedar Highlands, Utah's newest town, was there to present on our behalf with that portion of the program. And we got very high marks. They made us work very intently on goals and strategies and come back with action plans and to get us to the next steps. So we have a whole layout of what we're proposed to do. And one of the next phases of this project is identifying all of the stakeholders. So all of you will be hearing a lot more about this in the coming month or two as we start talking more about this. And I think this would fit very nicely into some of the things that the Historic Downtown Economic Committee is looking at right now through Better Cities and some of the Envision Utah stuff we're working on. So all of these things are sort of starting to come together to, I think, really try and take us to the next step in some of our economic development and using the arts as one of the catalysts for it. So we'll keep you posted, but it was a very, very worthwhile thing. And I think Iron County came off very well represented, and Commissioner Blake did a very nice job as well participating with us. He was a little uncomfortable when he had to describe a postcard and how he felt about a postcard he was looking at, but he did a very good job. Any questions anyone has? There'll be a lot more information coming in the next few months.
Thank you for
Yeah,
going back
Is that
there.
okay, Danny?
Danny?
Economic Development did a great job with the grant.
Yeah, thanks. Okay, is there any other staff comments before we move on? Okay. All right, we'll move into the public agenda with the public comments. If there's anyone that would like to come forward and address the council on an item that is not an agenda item, you are welcome to come up, state your name, and be as brief as possible.
Hi, council persons. Hi, my name is Nathaniel Taggart. I've been a proud resident of Cedar City since 2012, and I serve as annual fund manager at the Utah Shakespeare Festival. I wanted to call attention to the fact that our community has 3 incredible new human beings in it, Frank Mack, the festival's new executive producer, who will be here soon, and he'll introduce himself. Tyler Morgan, who's come here from Woods Cross up in Davis County to be our marketing and communications director, and also Don Jersey, our new development director, sort of the leader of our fundraising efforts. Don was previously the publisher of the Las Vegas Sun in Clark County, and most recently, he was kind of the guy behind getting the first all-public addiction recovery high school in the United States open, Mission High School in Las Vegas. It's a really incredible accomplishment. And I'm so excited to give Don a chance to introduce himself to all of you.
I'm Mayor Pro Tem and Council. I go everywhere with a hype man now, so Nano's the guy. I just wanted to say hi. The last time I was in a council chamber, it was with one of my reporters, and the reporters didn't get the dirty looks sometimes that I got. And I'm just very happy to be here. I also have ties to this community. My folks have lived in Parowan since 2000. They celebrated their honeymoon 35 years ago at Romeo and Juliet in the old Adams Theater. I'm also a Rano, for those of you that are familiar with that name. I'm heavily active in my community still in Las Vegas. And part of what I like to do is be heavily active in the community wherever I'm at. And so I'm looking to bring some of those resources that I used in Las Vegas here. I was chairman of the local library district for a long time. So I'm looking forward to visiting the library and getting the one on campus. And as you all know, I have a huge shoes to fill, but also an incredible mentor here in Scott that has been there for me and is going to continue. And I'm just looking forward with it. And I just wanted to say hello. Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you, Don.
Well,
Thank you very much.
yeah.
Welcome.
Okay. Good evening. My name is Dr. Howard Mays. I'm here tonight representing the Iron County Sheriff's Search and Rescue. Last year I was here about the same time, and we were looking to use the property for our annual carnival. We'd like to see if we can do the same thing again this year. We're looking at the carnival itself being May 16th through the 19th, so we'll need a day or two ahead of time. I believe the 14th is what they're looking at for setup, and tearing down on the 20th. And the property that we've been using is the one that, I don't know if it has a specific name. I kept asking people for it. They said, no, just tell them it's the property north of the Elks Lodge, and it's on 100 East. The city park is right across the street from it. Seems like you guys are all nodding. You know the property I'm talking about better than I do. So we just want to see if we can go ahead and use that. Last year, you guys were extremely generous with the use of the property.
Do we need a formal permit or?
I think last year it was water. They search and rescue paid for water, and we'll double check.
Yeah, it was my understanding that the water was part of what we were given. I don't know if you have the records of it. That'd be great.
Yeah. How can I get a hold of you? We'll double check and get back to you.
I will leave my phone number with you.
Thanks.
All right.
Tyler, is there any issues relative to liability, insurance, and things of that nature?
The carnival guys always bring their own insurance.
Very good.
Yeah,
they
in fact,
get a business license, and
oh, I'm sorry.
The search and rescue doesn't post independent insurance with us. It's mostly the carnival guys.
Okay, thank you.
And we heard we had a little lag in time on the insurance issue. Now they're just forwarding it through email, and it's taken care of very quickly.
Great.
Yeah.
Great.
Any other questions?
I'll just figure out what we did last year and give you a call. Okay.
I'm until May, so I can't.
Thanks.
Even if it makes our next work meeting.
Oh, yeah.
So we can get all the permitting.
So I'll have to start advertising.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Bet. Anybody else would like to address the council this time? Okay. If not, we'll move into our business agenda in the public portion. First item is to consider vicinity plan reapproval for South Mountain Estates, Phase 1. Watson Engineering or
Joel Hansen.
Joel's here. Okay.
A couple of years ago, we brought construction drawings through for this particular project, and so we're wanting to reapply for those because we've been over our time limit. What we have is we have a 9-lot subdivision that we want to put in. It'll be along South Mountain Drive, west of Eagle Ridge subdivision that's currently out there. So existing Eagle Ridge, we're going to come down South Mountain Drive, and it would be, this entire project is going to include this acreage that goes over to about here. So that entire project's going to be 38-acre parcel, but we're starting about 9 acres of it over here on this side. So we're wanting to reapprove those construction
What will be the
drawings.
road access into this first phase from South Mountain?
It'll be from South Mountain Drive right
And
here.
you're developing the road in there
Yeah.
for the project?
Yep.
So you're just reapproving the vicinity plan. Construction drawings have already been approved by us, and there's been no changes in the standards since they were approved. So the construction drawings are good.
Yeah, the planning commission readdressed this as well.
Do we, I'm not familiar with the RE zone, so pardon me if I'm going over territory you've all stomped on before, and just for
Yeah.
clarity.
It's called the residential estate zone.
Mhm.
Minimum 1-acre parcels. They don't put fully improved roads in. It's just 26-foot strip of asphalt. They have there's a clause in there that they can't have a certain number of animals.
Who maintains this?
It's still city streets. All the streets and water and sewer systems still city streets.
So do we struggle with any of the snow removal issues or anything with not fully developed streets?
Probably makes it easier for them because they don't have to deal with curb and gutter and things like that. So they just put it out on off the edge of the road of the asphalt.
And what about pedestrian moving? Is there sidewalks in this?
There is a trail that goes up one side of the road.
Is that trail paved, or what is that? How's that trail developed?
Can't recall on the construction drawings. It seemed like seems like the asphalt was widened out on the road section and the trail was striped.
Right. The ordinance calls for a hard surface trail. So that's something we discussed as we've done that. So it'll be asphalt.
Okay.
You know, to kind of talk a little bit more about, to give you an idea of why we're doing that, this particular parcel of property kind of lends itself to more of a rustic feel. And that's why we've gone to the RE zoning with it. That's why we would like to keep the smaller streets and not have the curb gutter and sidewalk, because I really feel like aesthetically overall, that's going to greatly deter from the quality of this particular parcel of property. With the lots as big as we have them, I feel like we will be able to keep some cedar trees out there and do some different things where we have minimal landscaping done and more of a natural scape with the lot size. People that I've talked to, there's been a lot of people from Cedar City that have approached me, and they really like that concept, because everybody wants a big lot, but nobody wants to take care of a half-acre worth of yard and trees and bushes.
Sure.
Because I know I don't. And so that's part of the motivation for doing that.
What about the properties surrounding it, though? I'm just thinking down the road 20 years from now. I don't know who owns the property north and south, and if there's BLM land in there. I don't know.
Well, Joel owns a significant part of that. I'm not sure about
the north side of it's owned by Sitla.
Okay.
So the east side of it is going to be developed in a new development that's coming through right now, and I own the south and the west side of it. So,
because I know there's plans for a school out there.
There is,
and just want to make sure that what we're planning for is the right mix as a community when we have schools and kids and buses and homes and streets. And I don't know if there'll be commercial development out there, but we can't just look at now. We got to look at 25 years down the road as well. I'm not against the concept at all. I just want to make sure we have the right mix as we look at this. So,
and as we develop this entire project out here, we will have a good mix of everything.
Okay.
This particular property, the reason why we've done that the way we've done it is because that's what makes sense for that specific piece of property. It doesn't make sense to do anything else with it. It's R1 zoning, and I've put 39 acres and I have 41 lots on it. I could put close to 100 lots on it if I wanted to, but that doesn't make sense. So we are looking at the long-term objective, and that's why we've looked at rerouting the master plan road to come out here so it will connect in the school. And as we go forward and develop this property around the school, I'm definitely taking into consideration what works well and what works best.
Okay, great.
I try to look forward as much as possible.
Joel, I had noticed in the minutes before when they discussed it, they talked about the fire protection and whatnot when you're building out in those treed areas and when you're connecting like wildlands to urban. I asked Chief Phillips if he would kind of come and explain what we'd talked about before, because it looks like we were maybe going to pick up having some kind of fire interface in our codes, and he says that we haven't done that. So he would speak more intelligently about it than I.
Mike Phillips Fire Department. At least she gave me a little notice before the meeting. So when this came through, it was in 2015. Is that right, Paul? Is that what?
Yeah,
that's
November.
what it says.
Mhm.
So at that time, the state was in the process of adopting the catastrophic wildfire program. And since then, that's been adopted. So what that says is anywhere that we allow building to go and it intermixes or mixes in an interface, then there's a premium that the city has to pay for the suppression costs, or for a premium to cover suppression costs. So everywhere we push into that wildland urban interface, we have the risk of pushing up the area that falls in that wildland urban interface area. So for instance, over in this South Mountain, this area right here, we've been cutting that fuel on that sit in the land. Now this project came in long before that law came into place. So we're out there meeting our match, cutting a fuel break and working inside of there. So the concern then becomes is, do we have the developer put something into their plans, or do we as a city take that on? We don't have to adopt the Wildland Urban Interface Code. The state of Utah has adopted that interface code, and that may be something that we want to look at. Does that answer your question?
It does. Thank you. So I guess the next question would be, Tyler, what direction do we go with looking at what we need to do on there, or Paul?
If you want to pass the cost as developers, you better put it in the code. And have something in our development code so that when somebody comes in with an idea for a development, they'll know what they're getting into. Wouldn't recommend doing it on the fly.
No, definitely not. It wouldn't be for this project here, but I wondered what we do to start that discussion.
So Chief dragged me out east when I was young and didn't know any better here at the city. And I spent a week with him, and that's all we talked about was this wildland urban interface and how to properly craft ordinances, what's best for the city. I know it's something the chief's been looking at and working on since. So it's something that we haven't stopped looking at. I think it's a discussion Chief and I will have, and we could bring the idea to council.
Okay.
Next little bit.
So the idea, you got to be careful when you adopt these. They can be very expensive. Some of the wildland urban interface code provisions are they're always couched in the interest of public safety, which is what fire's here to do, but they can be very expensive very quickly. So I don't suggest we adopt a national code or even a statewide code. I think we need to adopt what fits for Cedar City.
I was just hoping we could start that discussion.
Yeah.
Yes.
So.
Where's the nearest water source to that proposed?
There's a tank.
Up on over here.
You go above the 28.
Yeah.
And you go south of the 28. It's up behind the liquor store and Home Depot. There's a water tank.
And there's a big major water line that runs down that road too, right, Kit?
I'm sorry, let me clarify. Where's the nearest fire hydrant for you to fight a fire?
Hydrant?
Oh,
right there on the corner.
So when they develop, when Joel develops, they'll have to put fire
Yeah,
hydrants.
those are all in his construction drawings now.
Okay, thank you.
The other challenge we face, and Paul brought this up, so as this Sitla land sells off and we go and we go cut this fuel break inside of here and it sells off in the development, we just keep mixing into that intermix and the interface. So the people that this subdivision right here, that's in the wildland urban interface today, 5-10 years from now, it won't be, because there'll be another subdivision on the outside of it. So that's the challenge that we face with that wildland urban interface code.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chief.
Thank you.
Okay. Have any other discussion?
Yeah, the other question I had, as far as like notice periods, do we have to do anything as far as like public notification within the 300 feet when they're going through this process again?
No.
So,
No.
because the zone was already changed back then.
Yeah.
And, okay. All right.
Any other questions?
No, thank you.
Thanks, Joel.
Okay, I guess we can put that on consent next time. Okay, item number 2 is a public hearing to consider a zone change from mixed use to student housing district for a property located at 119 North, 800 West. Bob, are you here to address that?
Bob Platt, representing the owners. This is owned by Spencer Jones and Blake Cousins. This is north of Harding Avenue and on the west side of 800 West. I guess there's another map, kid, I guess. Let's see. So those 4 parcels right there. There's 800 West. There's 900 West. It's where the project is being constructed. You can't miss it.
Yeah.
It's the first 4 lots going north from Harding on 800 West, on the west side of 800 West. So it's right here. The request is to go from mixed use to student housing district. It's a general plan and zone change request. It's in conformance with the general plan because you've adopted the student housing district. It did receive a positive recommendation at Planning Commission.
Okay. Pretty far along.
I have a little trouble with this, Mr. Platt. Mr. Jones and his design team knew when they submitted these permits earlier what the use was. So if they knew what the parking was, because the student housing district had not been approved at that time, what were they planning to do with those basements that they did have in there? Were they just going to leave them unfinished?
Well, they have to meet the parking ordinance.
Correct.
Correct. And they've purchased, in addition to parking on site, they've also purchased this parcel right here that's a vacant lot. It's going to be parking for this area too.
And that's for the 0.85.
It's to whatever the ordinance is now.
Well, that's what it was, yeah.
So it will meet all the parking requirements. It will meet all it has to.
Sure.
And quite frankly, the discussion came up at Planning Commission about it's a 3-story above, it's actually counting basement, it's 4-story, but it's 3-story above grade. But the project was in conformance with mixed use when it was approved, which was a zoning.
Correct.
I just wanted to clarify that, make that.
No, I recognize that. Yes, I do recognize that.
But there's full intention that this parking that will be constructed as parking to supplement what's needed here.
Do you know off the top of your head how many parking spaces they had planned for at the mixed use?
I don't have that off the top of my head.
Okay.
I know I had asked Spencer about that, and he had told me about that other vacant
Piece
land
of property.
property that in the event that the zone wasn't passed, that would accommodate the 0.85. I don't recall the actual number of spaces, but it was enough.
But
to
they
put
are
it in
planning to
compliance.
develop that lot into parking regardless,
Yes, that's going to be
correct?
absolutely,
Whether it's 0.75 or 0.85.
absolutely, yes.
Yeah.
Part of the plan.
Well, I just struggle with it because I think they knew what it was when they went in and they got all the permits approved. And now they're coming back trying to get it smaller to get less parking. And I struggle with that.
Renan, is the business license like issued at the time it's ready for occupancy? So it'll fall under all of the new rental agreement and whatnot?
New parking ordinance.
Because they haven't already gotten their business license for that, have they?
No. But if they have additional ones, we only require one license per owner. I don't know if he's got another one or not, I don't know.
Okay, because we need to make sure that this falls
Yes.
under the agreement where we're monitoring the parking, and they agree to stay within that. So I don't know if we need to put some kind of, when we approve it, some kind of stipulation or, pardon me? Okay. I just wanted to make sure it didn't slide by and not be under the full umbrella of that new zone.
Building department will check the parking anyway.
Okay. Well, but if they haven't contracted with the city, the whole idea was have them contract with the city too, and that whole process that
I
we
assume
designed.
that's a new
circumvent it.
process that just will happen automatically now, won't it?
So is it the first of the year they go out? So the first of the year they go out. So whether we catch them on this cycle or we catch them in January of next year,
Okay.
it's going to be in place.
Everybody's going to have to fill out the new application.
Okay. All right. Good.
Before they get that permit to occupy, the building guys are going to go in.
But don't you think since the semester begins in August, we ought to send notices out to all the landlords in the summertime saying, just so you're aware, when it comes time to renew, this will be the situation. You did already. Okay, great.
We've done our best to spread the word to everyone we can.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
So this is our first.
This is
In
a first
conformity
request
with
for
the new-
SHD, I believe.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, anything else before we, this being a public hearing, we'll open the public hearing. If anybody would like to speak on this.
Tyler, did you have some, you had pre-verbal tension
Well,
over
yeah.
that?
What?
I was just going to mention it went through planning commission. It was given a positive recommendation. The only, because this building is already built, they're not taking advantage of the higher heights or
setback
less
differences.
setbacks. This is purely their hope of being able to put more occupants in the building because they'll be able to have less parking stalls needed for ordinance.
Okay. Anybody want to address it? Okay, if not, then we'll close the public hearing and we'll put this on the agenda for
This would be an action.
action item, yeah, not on consent, yeah. Okay, we'll move into the staff portion with item number 3 is consider disposal of a 16-foot cargo trailer to the Iron County Emergency Management. Chief Phillips.
Mike Phillips, the fire department again. So the fire department received a new 29-foot gooseneck trailer. When we received that trailer, intent was to take our small 16-foot tongue pull trailer and pass it down to emergency management. The new trailer cost about $18,000 and was purchased through FEMA money. The current value of the trailer that we want to get rid of is about $2,000.
Okay, any discussion on that or everybody okay with it?
Thanks for negotiating a good deal.
Thank you.
All right, we'll put that on consent too.
He's a horse trailer for a horse trailer.
Horse trailer for a horse trailer or something like that. Okay, we'll move into item number 4, which is to consider a Udot funding assistance agreement for $75,000 for the 1400 West storm drain included in the current 2018 storm drain project. Kit, you gonna address that?
My pointer doesn't work. Okay. Anyhow, what this is as part of our 2018 storm drain projects. One of those projects was this 1400 West storm drain, and they're out installing it right now. We're going to be encroaching on Udot's right away from the fence to the pipe that's not very far from the edge of asphalt. And we're going to be doing that on both ends. Same thing on this end from just east of the edge of asphalt out to this area. And since Udot's view of this is that it's definitely helping them out with the safety situation, that they're contributing $75,000 for those two extensions on both sides of the freeway. So that's what the agreement is.
I've read through the agreement. Looks fine.
Okay.
Was this something that we had hoped for, anticipated? Was this a windfall?
Well, we've been dealing with them all through the design process on the project, and just went to them and asked if they would participate, and they came up with the money. It took us 2 shots to get it. They first denied it, and then they reconsidered.
Maybe go 3 and they'll double it.
Yeah. Good job. Anytime we can get it.
Thank you. Yeah.
Okay. All right. We'll move to item number 5, which is a discussion regarding the city's Cedar Valley sewer line extension. So, Kit, Tyler.
I'll start us off and then I'll turn it over to Kit. So about May of last year, Trevor McDonald from the engineering department reached out to a lot of the property owners that fall within this sewer line extension in the West Cedar Valley. This has been master planned and put in place because this is a lot of where the growth is coming in the city. So on this map, at the very bottom, the line currently runs to, where Kit's cursor is. Well, it's below that.
Yeah, it runs to.
It's right in there. So it runs to there, and then it's master planned along that green line that kind of goes back and forth up to the very top. So Trevor's reached out to all the property owners in that area and was able to get verbal agreements to give us an easement to go through and place this sewer line along this master planned location. There were 2 property owners that were uncomfortable with it. One was located down at the bottom end. Mr. DeMille owns a hayfield and he didn't want it going through the hayfield. We understood that. We met with Mr. DeMille, explained some of the benefits of having this sewer line, how it could increase his property value and to help out in the future if he decided to develop or to sell to a developer, to already have that line in place, the cost savings that would give him. We're also able to design this sewer line where we can bury it, the manholes 4 feet underneath, so he can still work that land until he decides to do something different with it. So we were able to meet with him and his wife. It was a good conversation. We were able to work out an agreement where I think both parties walked away happy.
And I think that's Dean Lamoureux is the person we were dealing with.
That's right.
Oh,
yeah. So the other property owner is up in that red box there. And then, so it's 2 sisters that are on record, Kathleen Slack and Christine DeMille. We've reached out to them. We've been informed that Miss Slack makes the decisions from her sister. So we've been trying to get in contact with her. We just haven't had much luck there. We haven't spoken to her. I've written a few letters. I've reached out and talked to her husband. Mr. Bittman has been able to talk to her husband. And at this point in time, she just doesn't really want to sit down and talk about any of the options. I got an email from her yesterday, which is the first correspondence I've had from her, that she just said at this point in time she doesn't want to give the city an easement and she'd prefer that we go around her property. So we're left with varying options in how to do this. Her property, that width is about 330 feet. It's sagebrush. So it's property that the city feels at least that we could go across and then put that property back in the exact situation it was before. We have agreements with property owners where we'll come back in year after year if there's any settling to fix any defect that may come about. So you'll see 4 different options of what the council can recommend we do. Before we get too far in this, one of the options is going to be eminent domain, which is the city saying this is a public use, which it is. It's a sewer line. And then going in and taking this property, getting a court order, and then paying the property owner just compensation for that easement. I just want to make sure that we're all clear. The statute gives us very direct guidance on notice requirements and decisions that need to be made. One of the requirements is that before we take a final vote, that there's certain notices giving out. My intent in bringing this before the council isn't for this final vote. So it's just to give the council the options of what you'd like to pursue, see the costs, the pros, the cons, and then give staff direction on where you'd like to go. If eminent domain is that path that we want to go down, then I'll start that process, which will involve similar hearings like we'll have tonight. So with that, I'll let Kit go through the options.
So there's basically 3 options here. The option number 1 is the option that's really been in place for the last nearly 30 years. There was a master plan done on the sewer system, and it had the master plan line following this green line coming up 3900 West, coming onto this property, which is Jack Smith. He's agreed to let us go ahead and put the line through his property. And then it would come up here through the Slacks property up to 1600 North, which is right there. And it would connect onto a large, I believe it's a 36-inch sewer trunk line that runs along 4500 West and on out to the sewer treatment plant. The biggest advantage of getting this line in is we're basically going to eliminate 2.5 lift stations by having that line put in there. That's estimated savings a year just in O&M costs of about a little over $80,000 to do that. And the cost of the line is about, for the full length of the line, it's right around $3.6 million. The other option, number 2, I believe it is, this other option is to, I think it's to take off, let's see. This is the 3rd option over here, isn't it? Yeah.
It's just the blue line that goes around the Slacks property.
Okay, so this is following that same route, but it's taken it around the Slacks property and up,
That's option
up here.
2, right?
That's option 2, and
how many pump stations do we end up with that?
Well, we're still going to end up with, I think, 2 pump stations on that one. So, well, maybe 1.5 pump stations. So our savings on that is estimated to be about $42,000 a year versus $81,000 for the option 1. And the cost of that line is about just about $900,000 more. So, and then the last option, which is this option right here, and this involves putting in at least 1 more lift station, maybe 2 lift stations that would come out of the lift station we have currently, come down to here, go straight up, and then clear up to 1600 North, and then tie back into that main sewer. And the cost of that option is $5 million. And we'd see about a $62,000 savings, annual savings on that option. So it's about $1.4 million more than the preferred option, and about $20,000 less savings a year.
Tyler, did you share with the Slacks like what it's going to cost the city if they don't allow us?
So I sent them everything that you received in that initial email from me. I sent them. Trevor gave us this additional email where it went through a lot of the costs. So they don't have what the lift station is going to cost.
Okay.
They do know that it's going to be at least $30,000 a year just for the gas to maintain the pump station. So they know a small figure, but I have Miss Slack's email now, so I'll forward her that information tomorrow.
Okay.
How big a stretch is that across their land?
It's 330 feet.
330 feet.
But if we go the other routes around Slacks, are we still involving them on the edge of their property? Or are we going easement on to the adjacent owner?
No, we're avoiding their property altogether on the other routes.
So I mean, where the blue line comes around that
Blue line's
corner there,
right around them.
that's not on their piece. It's on the one next to
That's
it.
on the adjoining properties.
Okay.
Yep.
And if we went through their property, we wouldn't change their potential use, or would we? I mean, they could still use it
for sagebrush.
No.
For
4500 West is actually a master planned road that is master planned to come right through their property. So that sewer line would be in their road. I'm sure we're going to run into the same issues when we try to get the road right away, but that sewer line would be within that road. So it wouldn't be an additional encumbrance. And then it comes down here and ties on to 200 U56 at this location. So
I just, with eminent domain issues that I encountered growing up in Reseda, California, of all places, I just never thought I would ever hear myself say that that's the right option. But for the greater good and for the amount of space that we're involved with, I don't, and the cost figures, I just don't see how the other options are even options. But and I see
Well, wouldn't it also
right people nodding their heads. So
I mean, in the long term, wouldn't it also help improve the value of their property?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just wondering because it's already touching on the side, so
Right. And
they don't have the same benefit as Lamrose. So
it depends how you define your benefit. Right?
Sure.
I mean,
Sure. Not knowing what they want to do with the
I
land.
grew up on a farm, and my dad might say, no, I don't think that benefits me because I'm never going to use it for that. Right. But in a situation
I would
like
never
this,
say never. Yeah.
right. If you wanted to develop this property, if you wanted to put homes on it, the fact that a developer does not have to pay the cost to install a sewer line is going to be a big benefit.
Sure.
Yeah. So
and the fact that we can bury these pipes so far down, they can run a disc and plow over it without it affecting at all their use.
are they using that at all? Or is it all sagebrush?
So I haven't gone out and looked at it, but I was told
I
that
haven't either,
sagebrush-
but
I invited, come on up, Randy.
Randy Clove with the Cedar City Wastewater Collections. It's more or less like grass out there. They've been pasturing it a little bit, but I can tell you, we go through that 4,500 line goes clear to the plant. We deal with landowners every day. We go out and work with them. Dean Lamerl, we've already have a line that goes through his fields already. We work with them extensively to keep them happy. And we've worked with them to where we've dug up manholes that are buried, worked with them till they've done harvesting their fields. We go in, we dig up the manholes, we lined them. We had a lining company come in and line the manholes so the gases wouldn't eat the manholes away. Went in there and then backfilled them, made sure we were up to where they wanted them to their specs. we've never had a complaint with them. We, like I say, we put in nice gates. We go through every 4 years through the system as all as we'd be in there. Me and Trevor McDonald's have looked at that property. There's a way we can align it to where there would be no manholes in the Imlay Slack property. So we could probably work it away to where we wouldn't even have to drive through there. It'd be easier for us to bring water trucks and stuff through. But if they're worried about us interrupting anything there, we can work around it to keep them happy. And we've never had any complaints. Most of the time, the landowners enjoy us because we go in, we fix the roads, any issues with culverts, anything we've put in, we've always worked really well with them. And it's this line will do a lot more savings for the city. As in, gravity is the liability is a big thing. Lift stations are not good. They're your last resort is the way I look at it, is bringing down and getting rid of the cross hollows and the MTI lift station. Another thing that it's taking off our airport line is coming to get pretty full. We're getting almost to capacity on it. This right here will relieve the pressure off of the airport line because our MTI lift station is our biggest lift station, and it in turn dumps into the airport line. So this right here will take the pressure off of it and then gravity feed. And our cross hollow lift station also dumps into that MTI lift station, but it is getting overloaded on the wet well because we have all this new development because of the temple that's coming in there. And so all in turn, the master plan that Kit's put together and some of the other guys there in engineering is going to help. This will be great. The pressures, I mean, it's hard to explain in our jobs. Like, we take a lot of pride in them. And a lift station, when you get a phone call from a lift station, your heart just sinks because you want to get out there, you want to figure it out, because not in turn just making sure that that it's running properly. But if it overflows and gets to a point, then we have to report to the state. Then we have to deal with surrounding landowners when it does flood them. So this lift station that we're looking at to bypass pump, once we start putting this down here, and eventually, I mean, it picks up all the flow clear from the south end of town off the Eagle Ridge where we was looking in that development they're putting in. It picks all that up, plus all the county out there off of Westview. So it's a large capacity.
So we actually eliminate 2.5 lift
Yeah,
stations?
2.5. It's going to take the flows, about half the flows out of the MTI lift station, and divert those into
eliminate
gravity
MTI.
feed.
Less moving
No,
parts.
I mean out of Cedar Meadows.
Cedar Meadows right now, everything from that south end, and the county goes to the Cedar Meadows lift station. In turn, it pumps like 3.5 miles up to the MTI lift station, dumps in front of Genpack. That's another issue, that we will get rid of the odor complaints that we have along U56, because Genpack deals with, food packaging for like McDonald's and other fast food restaurants. And we've had to seal those manholes because they have their, big companies coming down they bid it out every so often and they get the complaints. So we had to line those manholes and seal those off where those lift stations dump in. And so they don't get odor complaints. This will take away from that too. So.
Yeah, there'll still be sewer flow going in there.
But it won't be the dump into the lift stations causing the odors. So. But Cedar Meadows, and it's getting to the point too, and there's other development to the west, the big subdivision, 900 to 1,000 lots that we're looking at that would be going to the Cedar Meadows lift station. In turn, if this doesn't go in, that's another upsizing we'd have to do to this lift station. It'd be a really large lift station and liability.
I don't want to oversimplify this, but from a cost and efficiency standpoint, it makes no sense to do other than option one to me. But
option one is clear choice. But
and
now we're just asking permission from all of these people, correct? I mean, that's the process we've been going through thus far.
We've been
and we would have to start eminent domain proceedings if we.
And those agreements come with different. The cities agree to do things for different farmers to help them out. Whether it's
that's what I'm wondering. I mean,
we're going to reseed hay on some of their property, and we're going to level it, compact it.
Since these agreements are all slightly different with the various landowners, is there an opportunity that we might offer some incentive here to them that is still going to save us hundreds of thousands of dollars in the long run, but that might entice them to rethink it.
And that's my hope. I just can't get any contact to talk. She won't talk to me.
Do they have children? Do they have
We've
heirs?
reached out to a county employee that we thought could help. Both Paul and I have talked to her husband. Just at this point in there, she's refusing to just have any sort of dialogue. So I don't know where we
email
go.
was a nice thing.
Yeah.
So if we rattle some cages, I mean, if we send up a flare that says we may have to.
So before we could go down the eminent domain path, the state requires us, and Tyler alluded to this earlier.
Thank you, Randy.
To send the landowner a fairly detailed notice. And it also requires further public discussions about going down that path. Staff wanted to come to you guys first before we even got to that point and say, this is the road we're heading down. We want to let you know. We want to make sure it's okay with you guys to keep heading down this road. Anywhere along this road, if there's some cooperative efforts we can reach, we'll do that.
Sure.
But that's kind of why we're here tonight, just to tell you we're headed down this road.
So is that the agenda item for next week then, that we say yay or nay, or just the discussion is all that we're having?
Yeah. Just to get a feel of where the council would.
Okay.
So do you know, in that process, I'm raking my brain a little too from my past property classes. What if, does that owner have to respond to a notification, or is there a piece in the law that allows if you make the attempt, whether it's certified mail, whatever it is, and they just don't want to respond?
Yeah.
Can't you move forward?
Yeah. So
based on that, right? Is that what I remember?
The process would be, I would send notice, a letter, and the statute spells out the language I need to include in the letter, along with this packet that goes through what eminent domain is and just compensation. And I send that out to her 10 days before we have the public hearing. If she would like to appear and voice her concerns, or a representative for her, we'd encourage that, appreciate that. The council would then make a vote, deciding vote, where the road we're going to go down. At that point in time, I'd file a claim in the district court for eminent domain. Then we go through the court process of having a judge order it.
How long is that process?
It would probably take us 3 to 4 months
to
get through it all. In the meantime, I could request an order to allow us to start on the project before we have final approval. The statute builds in a clause to be able to do that. But with this case, if they're using the property, the city would be just fine, waiting until fall time when they're not using it.
But I assume our proposal is, whichever option we end up with, we're doing this project all at once. This is not being phased.
The project, so Kid alluded after 1600 North, there's a line that goes all the way out to the treatment plant. So that was an earlier phase of this entire project. That little green line coming over from Airport Road, I think that's a different phase. Is that right, guys?
But it's budgeted.
But what we're talking down at the Lamro property,
right? That's all one big.
It's all one big
phase.
One big phase.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Would you have any opposition if I tried to contact him?
Not at all.
Okay.
So how is the title on the property between the two sisters?
Yeah, it's joint.
So don't we have to have both?
We would. But
and
what
so
Trevor had told me that Miss Imlay said is she makes the decisions and you go through her.
And she'll go along with whatever she decides. Is that's what we're reading into that?
That's what I'm reading into. That, or she doesn't want to be the bad guy. I don't know.
Okay. I think I know her. I'm trying to too, but I don't think of her sister.
Yeah, I know them both.
Anyway.
I know all three of them. So
I was
let
gonna
me see
say
if I can make any inroads. And they don't have any of the cost information to know what the city's looking at if they don't allow that and whatnot.
The first email with a little bit of the cost. The second email had
All the detail.
more detailed, and Tyler will send that to her.
Okay. All right. If you'll
Sounds
send
good.
that out to her, and then I'll try and make contact.
I will. I'll do that tomorrow.
Okay.
So we don't need to put this on for next time. We'll just bring it back when we get more information and after future. Okay.
Thanks to the staff. For all
Yeah.
the,
Thank you.
all the hard
for all
work.
that.
And
That's
the options.
Yep.
okay. I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to adjourn this meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Can you make sure you get the garbage?
I didn't think I'd ever hear myself say.
Me either. But that's
But-
insane.
but that's